Welcome to Scoli Sleep Stories. Before we begin, take a moment to get comfortable, let the day soften around you, and settle in for a calm documentary made for curious minds. If these stories help you rest, learn, or simply enjoy a quieter part of the day, please consider liking this episode and subscribing to the channel. Now, when you are ready, let us begin. Chapter 1: Beneath the Great Station Clock. After dusk, the great station seems to gather the evening into itself. Beyond its high stone facade, the city continues beneath a light rain. Carriages move along shining streets, and footsteps pass under awnings and arcades. Yet when you cross the broad entrance and walk through the tall doors, the sounds of the city soften behind you. They become distant and rounded, as though the building has gently closed its hands around them. Inside, the concourse opens beneath a lofty, vaulted ceiling. Pale stone columns rise toward arches ornamented with leaves, shields, and quiet figures carved many years ago. Above the ticket windows, old lettering is set into the masonry. It belongs to an age when railway stations were built not only as useful places, but also as gateways. These buildings were designed to suggest distance, possibility, and welcome. Ahead lies the train shed, where broad roofs of iron and glass shelter the platforms. Many of Europe's large 19th century termini were designed in this way. Their public facades were made of brick or stone, dignified and monumental. Behind them stood remarkable structures of metal and glass. Iron could span wide spaces with fewer supporting columns, leaving room below for tracks, platforms, steam, travelers, luggage, and light. The old steam is gone from this station now, but the roof remains. Its dark trusses form steady lines overhead, repeating from one end of the hall to the other. Far above, rain ticks softly against the glass. The sound is faint at platform level, no more than a silver whisper suspended among the rafters. Warm pools of light rest along the platforms. Between them, polished rails extend into shadow. This is a terminus, a station where the tracks come to an end. Trains arrive beneath the roof and later depart in the direction from which they came. They pass outward through the throat of the station, where many separate rails gradually join and divide. A through station is different. There the tracks continue beyond the platforms, allowing a train to enter from one side and leave from the other. The distinction is simple, although both kinds of station can feel like places between worlds. Each is part of a journey, yet each offers a pause. For a little while, everything is held beneath clocks, signs, lamps, and sheltering roofs. You pause beneath the great station clock. Its round face glows high above the platforms, framed in dark metal. Beneath it, passengers consult their tickets. Railway staff walk in measured lines, and small electric vehicles carry linen and supplies toward the waiting trains. No one nearby seems hurried. Every ordinary task has its allotted time. Before railways, towns often kept their own local solar time. Noon was determined by the moment when the sun stood highest over that particular place. Because the sun appears to cross the sky gradually from east to west, one town's clock might differ by several minutes from the clock in another town farther along the road. For most journeys, this caused little difficulty. A coach moved slowly, and daily life was governed more by daylight, bells, and familiar routines than by exact minutes. Railways, however, changed the scale of movement. Trains linked distant towns quickly. They passed one another on carefully managed tracks, met connecting services, and called at stations according to printed timetables. Platform clocks, signal boxes, station offices, and the watches carried by railway staff all needed to agree. A departure written as 8:15 had to mean the same thing to the driver, the guard, the signal operator, and the traveler, waiting beneath the clock. During the 19th century, railways strongly encouraged countries and regions to adopt standardized time. The change did not occur everywhere at once. Different nations adopted shared time in their own ways and at different dates. Gradually, however, common railway time helped turn many local hours into a coordinated network. Here the old purpose of the station clock remains visible. It is not merely decorative. It gathers the movements below into one patient order. Near the center of the concourse, a departure board changes. For a moment, its rows of letters shift with muted mechanical taps. One destination disappears, and another settles into place. On newer displays nearby, names glow without sound. The night train is listed among them. Its route bends eastward through landscapes suggested by familiar names. It will pass through the towns and open country of northeastern France, toward the river country near the Upper Rhine, beyond lie mountain lines leading toward Austria, and cities where the Danube moves beneath bridges. Farther still, the tracks reach toward the broad Hungarian plain. The precise course belongs to this particular journey. It is assembled from real landscapes and long railway traditions. It follows no single modern timetable, yet every part of it could belong to Europe's connected rails. A platform number appears beside the destination. You walk toward it at an easy pace with plenty of time. The evening train waits beneath the roof. Its locomotive stands at the far end, where the platform lamps grow smaller in the distance. This is a traditional locomotive-hauled service made from several separate carriages, joined together. There are sleeping cars, ordinary seated coaches, and a dining car. During the long journey, a locomotive may be changed, a carriage may be exchanged or detached, yet the rooms within can remain familiar and still, carrying their sleeping passengers onward through the night. The platform air is cool. It carries the clean scent of rain, stone, and damp metal. From the waiting carriages comes gentler warmth, faintly scented with polished wood, fabric, tea, and freshly folded linen. A station announcement drifts beneath the high roof. The words are calm and evenly spaced. They rise into the train shed, blur slightly among the iron beams, and fade into another quiet interval. Alongside the train, small signs are being checked. A member of the platform staff compares a paper list with the labels beside the carriage doors. Farther down, another looks at a watch, and then toward the clock. The departure indicator, the platform signals, the staff watches, and the great clock above the concourse all belong to the same settled system. Each has its part. No movement needs to be hurried. You begin to follow the train along the platform. The first carriages have broad windows and neatly drawn curtains. Beyond them stands the dining car, where shaded lamps cast small circles of amber light across white tablecloths. Glasses and cutlery wait in orderly rows. Then come the sleeping cars. They seem taller and more private, with a line of compartment windows set along their dark sides. One carriage is painted deep blue, so dark that it almost reflects the roof above. Fine lettering runs beneath its windows. Brass fittings catch the platform light, and the carriage rests with the composed air of a room already prepared for night. Through one window, a corridor lamp glows. Through another, you see the corner of a folded blanket and the pale edge of a curtain. Near the doorway, the sleeping car attendant is visible only as a calm silhouette, making the final check before the passengers enter. The station has already begun to feel farther away, although the train has not yet moved. The broad concourse, the departure board, and the measured hands of the clock remain behind you. Ahead are smaller spaces, a corridor, a compartment, a shaded lamp, a berth prepared beneath clean linen. Rain continues to tick against the glass roof far overhead. Closer by, a few drops find their way down the outer edge of the station and touch the carriage in soft, scattered notes. At the entrance to the sleeping car, the attendant looks up and opens the door. Warm light falls across the platform. Behind you, the great clock keeps its quiet watch. Beside you, rain whispers over iron and glass. Ahead, the compartment windows glow in an even row along the dark blue carriage, each one holding a small and sheltered space within. Chapter 2. The compartment prepared for night. You step from the platform into the sleeping car, and the attendant closes the outer door behind you. The rain beneath the station roof becomes a distant, silvery murmur. In its place comes the quieter atmosphere of the carriage, the low hum of ventilation, the faint rustle of fabric, and the careful sounds of passengers settling in for the night. A narrow corridor runs along one side of the car. Its carpet softens every footstep. Shaded lamps cast small pools of amber light at measured intervals, and beneath the windows a polished rail offers a steady handhold. Beyond the glass, the platform remains broad and bright, crossed by travelers, railway staff, and long reflections. The attendant walks a few steps ahead. The dark uniform is neat, the manner composed. Beside one of the doors, a small metal number catches the light. The attendant checks your ticket once more, turns the handle, and opens the compartment. Inside is a room made to the scale of a railway carriage. compact yet complete. You place your bag inside and draw the door closed. It meets the frame with a restrained click. At once, the corridor seems farther away. The compartment has become a small shelter of its own, separated from the great station by a door, a curtain, and the solid wall of the carriage. The first thing you notice is the berth. A berth is a bed aboard a train or ship, although the word seems to carry a quiet sense of travel within it. This one is already prepared. Crisp sheets lie smooth beneath a folded blanket, and a pillow rests at the head in a cool cotton case. The blanket is soft and closely woven, warm without seeming heavy. Above the pillow, a shaded reading lamp makes a small amber circle upon the wall. Its light is enough for the pages of a book or the face of a watch, but it does not fill the compartment with glare. Nearby is a switch for the main light. The carriage seems to rest somewhere between older craftsmanship and practical modern design. Polished wood frames the window. Smooth laminate surrounds the berth. Brass-colored fittings have been worn to a mellow shine by many careful hands. Traditional sleeping compartments made thoughtful use of limited space. Every shelf, hinge, and narrow recess had a purpose. In many older cars, daytime seating could be rearranged to form a lower berth at night. An upper berth might fold down from the wall, ready with its own linen and lamp. Not every seat in a sleeper becomes a bed, however. Many modern sleeping cars have fixed berths, prepared throughout the journey and waiting whenever the passenger wishes to rest. They may also include adjustable lighting, charging points, electronic locks, and private bathrooms. A simpler padded bunk, usually in a shared compartment, is known as a couchette. It provides a practical place to lie down, though generally with fewer services than a fully prepared sleeping car bed. Sleeper services commonly provide made beds, pillows, blankets, towels, and breakfast. Their compartments can usually be locked from within, allowing the night to feel enclosed and private. The attendant points to the lock on the inside of your door. The explanation is brief and reassuring. Turn the latch this way, and the compartment is secured from within. Beside the lamp is a call button, available if assistance is needed during the journey. Morning tea can be brought at the agreed time, shortly before arrival. The attendant asks what time you would like to be awakened. You choose an hour that belongs to early morning, though not to its earliest edge. The time is noted quietly. Sleeping car attendants have long been part of overnight railway travel. Their duties vary between routes and operators. They may check tickets, prepare beds, provide linen, offer refreshments, arrange wake-up calls, and help passengers before arrival. While the carriage rests, they help maintain its calm and orderly routine. There is no need for a long conversation. The remaining features of the compartment are shown one at a time. A narrow cabinet opens, and inside is a small wash basin with a silver-colored tap. A neatly folded towel waits beside it. In some sleeping cars, the basin is concealed beneath a hinged lid. Here, it folds outward just far enough to be useful, then returns neatly into the cabinet, allowing the same small space to serve another purpose. Toilets and showers differ from one carriage to another. Some are shared at the end of the corridor. Modern compartments may have private bathrooms, with a compact basin, toilet, and shower fitted behind their own door. Older designs tend to be simpler, yet even the simplest reveal how carefully railway builders considered every corner. The wash basin is folded away again. The cabinet closes softly, leaving the wall smooth and uncluttered. If the upper berth were needed, a small ladder would be placed beneath it. Its rungs would be firm, with a handhold position within easy reach. Tonight, the upper berth remains folded into the wall behind a panel. The room feels spacious enough for one traveler, although nothing in it is larger than necessary. Your bag fits beneath the lower berth. In other compartments, luggage might be stored beneath a daytime seat, above the corridor, or in a narrow recess near the door. A hook accepts your coat. A shallow shelf holds a book, a pair of glasses, and the ticket folder. Each possession finds a place designed for it. The attendant gives a slight nod and withdraws into the corridor. The door closes once more with the same restrained click. You turn the inner latch. Now the compartment is entirely your own. Outside the window, the terminus continues its evening routine. A station employee passes beneath the lamps. Farther along the platform, another attendant raises a hand toward a colleague. The destination board remains steady overhead, its lettering clear against the darkness. Rain traces fine paths down the outer glass, one droplet meeting another before both slip from view. You draw the curtain halfway across the window. The fabric is thick enough to soften the station light, yet you leave a narrow opening through which the platform may still be seen. Then you sit upon the edge of the berth. The mattress yields gently. The linen feels cool beneath your hand. Somewhere below the floor, equipment hums with a low and even note. From a neighboring compartment comes the muted sound of a suitcase being placed into storage, followed by silence. There is a slight settling through the carriage. It is not yet movement. It is only a change in balance, as though the long train has gathered itself. Farther down the line of carriages, a coupling accepts the weight with a soft and distant touch. The platform clock remains visible through the opening in the curtain. You switch off the brighter ceiling light. The shaded reading lamp remains, holding its amber circle above the pillow. The polished trim glows around its edges. The latch, the folded blanket, the curtain, and the closed cabinet all seem composed within that gentle light. Another almost imperceptible settling passes beneath you. This time, the platform begins to drift. At first, it is difficult to tell whether the carriage is moving forward or the station is gliding slowly back. One lamp passes beyond the window, then another follows. A figure on the platform recedes, calm and unhurried. There is no sudden pull, only a smooth motion gathering beneath the floor. You draw the curtain back for one final look. The great iron roof trusses slide away above. Station lights lengthen across the rain-marked glass, becoming pale ribbons of gold. The last platform clock passes from view, still keeping its measured time. Beyond the station roof, the rails divide and join beneath scattered signals. The dark blue carriage carries its row of sheltered compartments into the night. Around you, the berth remains prepared, the linen cool and crisp, and the blanket folded within reach. Behind, the terminus settles beneath its roof of iron and glass. Ahead, the train enters the outer districts of the city. Chapter 3. Leaving the City Lights. Beyond the station roof, the train enters a wide and intricate landscape of rails. For a little while, the city seems made almost entirely of railway lines. They spread beneath the carriage in polished ribbons, gathering and separating under amber lamps. Some curve toward distant platforms, others lead to maintenance buildings, washing sheds, or quiet rows of carriages waiting for another journey. Your train moves steadily through them all. From the window, you can see points guiding the path ahead. Points, also called switches, are movable sections of rail that direct a train from one track to another. Seen from above, the approach resembles woven fabric, with routes joining and crossing. Inside the carriage, each change is felt as a brief, measured pattern beneath the wheels before smoother motion returns. The wheels carry you onward. Alongside the running lines are sidings, tracks where railway vehicles can stand clear of passing trains. They may hold carriages awaiting cleaning, freight wagons ready for loading, or a locomotive resting between duties. They also allow vehicles to be serviced or another train to pass. On one siding, several sleeping coaches wait beneath yard lamps, their dark blue sides reflecting narrow bands of gold. A few windows are lit, though no passengers can be seen. Inside, compact compartments may be receiving the last quiet preparations for travelers arriving later in the evening. The sidings form part of a railway yard, a working space that keeps the network moving. Yards are used to store, inspect, sort, clean, and assemble trains. Here, carriages can be placed in order, equipment examined, and supplies brought aboard beneath bright, practical lights. Your train passes a long shed with open doors. Inside, steel ladders and work platforms stand beneath a pale ceiling. Farther on, a compact electric locomotive waits beside a maintenance building, its windows dark and its pantograph lowered. Above your train, a pantograph remains lightly pressed against the overhead contact wire. This roof-mounted device is how an electric train collects current. Support structures and crossbeams hold the wires in position, while insulators separate electrical equipment from the structures around it. The arrangement maintains contact through curves and junctions. The result is quiet, only a low electric hum beneath the carriage, steady and unobtrusive. Beside the tracks, signal lights appear in the darkness. A green light shines clearly, then slips behind the train. On a neighboring route, an amber light waits above 2 points of red. They are not signs of alarm, but dependable markers governing particular movements. Signals authorize and regulate trains, telling the driver when a route has been properly set. Some color light signals can also indicate which route has been chosen. A safety arrangement linking points and signals so conflicting routes cannot be set together. A proceed indication appears only when the route is safe. A route is selected, the points are set, a signal gives permission, and the train continues. The wheels carry you onward. For several minutes, parallel tracks remain on both sides. Crossovers connect one line with another. Empty passenger trains stand beside depots, their windows reflecting in dim rows. Beyond them are freight facilities, loading platforms, and service roads. A small maintenance vehicle moves slowly beside the tracks, its muted yellow lamp passing over the ground. Gradually the landscape opens. The gray expanse of tracks narrows, and sidings peel away toward workshops and warehouses. The train follows a broad curve, leaning so gently that the movement feels more like a sway than a turn. Across the blackening window, the shaded corridor lamp appears as a soft golden reflection, floating over rails and rooftops. A brighter yard lamp makes it fade. When darkness returns, it gathers again upon the glass. Beyond it, apartment buildings stand close to the railway. Their windows reveal fragments of evening, a lamp above a kitchen table, pale curtains, and the leaves of a houseplant. Balconies face the tracks, shining after the earlier rain. Farther from the center, buildings become lower. Warehouses replace apartment blocks with faded lettering, high windows and loading doors closed for the night. Small workshops stand between fenced yards, where timber and metal pipes rest in orderly stacks. At a road crossing, cars wait behind lowered barriers. Their lamps make pale pools on the wet pavement. The train passes without haste, and the road is soon left behind. The track now feels smooth. Much modern railway uses continuous welded rail, joined in long lengths with 4 gaps beneath the wheels. Instead of a constant sharp clickety-clack, there is a broad flowing sound, like a low phrase held beneath the carriage. At points and crossings, the rhythm changes briefly. A soft sequence passes beneath the floor, then the long smooth note returns. A more distinct pattern may sound over a bridge, along older jointed rail, or wherever the track changes beneath the train. The wheels carry you onward. The city loosens its hold, one building at a time. Workshops give way to gardens and narrow allotments. Small sheds stand beside rows of dark soil. A glass greenhouse catches the moonlight, holds it for a moment, then releases it as the train changes angle. There are fewer street lamps now. Open ground appears between houses. A canal accompanies the railway briefly, reflecting distant signals in slender threads of red and green, then bends away behind reeds and low trees. Another signal rises beside the line, clear and composed against the darkness. It passes the window and is gone, leaving the route ahead to the next patient marker. The last dense neighborhoods settle into the distance. A small station passes without a stop, its modest platforms empty except for a bench, a clock, and a lamp beneath a shallow canopy. Its name glides by too quickly to read. The place waits quietly for a later local train. Beyond it, the rails run beside dark fields. An isolated farmhouse lamp rests near the horizon. Farther away, a church tower rises above a village, its roof touched by moonlight. Overhead supports continue at regular intervals, each appearing ahead, passing above, and receding into darkness. The change from city to countryside has happened gradually. Apartment windows became warehouses, warehouses became workshops, workshops gave way to gardens, and gardens opened into fields. The intricate pattern of rails has narrowed to a steady route beneath the moon. Inside the carriage, the corridor has grown still. Chapter 4. Supper in the Dining Car. The fragrance of bread remains in the corridor, warm and faint, mingling with the clean scent of linen and polished wood. Beyond the window, the countryside moves beneath a quiet moon. Fields open between rows of trees, and the lights of isolated houses appear for a moment before slipping behind the train. You leave your compartment and draw the door gently shut. Amber lamps cast narrow pools of light across the carpet. At the end of the carriage, you take the cool metal handle of the connecting door. The train rounds a broad curve, and you pause beside the polished brass rail until the motion settles. There is no hurry. The carriages follow one another through the bend, each traveling along the same smooth path. You pass from the sleeping car into another corridor, and then onward toward the dining car. Here, the atmosphere changes almost imperceptibly. The light is warmer. Curtains soften the windows, while upholstered seats absorb the low murmur of conversation. Small shaded lamps stand between the place settings. Beneath each lamp lies a square of white cloth, trembling slightly at its edges. Plates, glasses, and folded napkins have been arranged with care. The dining car is a narrow room shaped by the dimensions of the railway, with tables along both sides of a central aisle. Yet everything fits comfortably. Coats hang from discreet hooks, bags rest beneath the seats, and the passage remains clear for staff accustomed to balancing on moving rails. You are shown to a table beside the window. As you sit, the glassware gives a tiny shiver. A stand of poplars passes in silhouette, followed by open fields divided by hedges and narrow lanes. The lamp's reflection rests upon the glass, making the little table seem to float above the dark land. A warm bowl is placed before you, and steam rises slowly from its surface. The supper is modest and comforting: soup, bread with a crisp edge and soft center, and a simple dish suited to an evening journey. Nothing is elaborate. The pleasure lies in warmth, order, and the quiet feeling of being cared for while the train continues eastward. Behind the service door, the kitchen is extremely compact. Every shelf, cupboard, and working surface must be used carefully. Pots and utensils are secured so they do not slide, and ingredients are stored in fitted spaces. On some railways, food was partly prepared in larger kitchens at station depots, then finished or served aboard. The staff know the movement of the carriage. They place each cup near the center of its saucer and carry trays with relaxed steadiness, keeping a little ease in their knees. When the train enters a curve, they make a small adjustment without seeming to think. The railway moves beneath them, and they move with it. You lift the spoon. The soup is warm and mild. A church tower rises dark against the sky, and then the whole settlement recedes behind a line of trees. Purpose-built dining cars became increasingly important during the late 19th century, as railways carried passengers over greater distances and across national borders. Companies competed to make these long journeys comfortable. A traveler might remain aboard for many hours, so a place to eat became part of the journey rather than merely a pause within it. Historic dining cars were often finished with wooden paneling and upholstered seats. Tables might be laid with linen, matching crockery, and carefully arranged glassware, creating the feeling of a small hotel or restaurant in motion. Yet the finest effect came not from ornament alone, but from the ritual of service: a table prepared, a warm dish brought, a shaded lamp glowing, while unfamiliar landscapes passed beyond the glass. One influential figure in this tradition was Georges Nagelmakers. In the 19th century, he founded the Compagnie Internationale des Wagons Lits, the international sleeping car company. It developed luxury sleeping and dining services across national borders, linking different railway systems through a shared tradition of hospitality. Its best-known train, the Orient Express, was inaugurated in 1883. In time, the name came to suggest a continuous journey toward Constantinople, now Istanbul. The earliest passengers, however, did not travel the entire distance aboard one direct train. Parts of the route required changes in connections. Direct rail travel became possible later, as lines were completed and international arrangements developed. The polished traditions of wagon lits became famous, but they were only one part of night train history. Many travelers crossed Europe in practical couchettes, where padded seats could become simple berths. Others used ordinary sleeping compartments or simpler seats. The deepest luxury was often not elaborate decoration, but the useful gift of distance covered during the quiet hours. At a nearby table, two passengers speak in low voices. Their words are softened by curtains and upholstery until they become part of the carriage's gentle background. Farther along, someone turns a page. Cutlery touches a plate with a muted note and becomes still again. You break a piece of bread and dip it into the warm bowl. Beyond the glass, the close-built villages have fallen behind. A farmhouse stands alone near a line of trees, one upper window glowing. A narrow road follows the railway briefly, pale beneath the moon, before turning away across the fields. Not every historical or modern night train carries a full dining car. Some offer simple refreshments, while others have no separate dining room. This train, crossing several regions, carries one. It serves as a warm central room where passengers may gather before returning to the privacy of their compartments and berths. The meal tapers gently. The bowl and plate are cleared, leaving the white cloth open beneath the lamp. A cup of tea arrives with a small pot. You pour and a thread of steam rises into the light. The surface leans almost imperceptibly as the train enters another curve, then becomes level again. For several minutes, there is nothing to do but watch. Moonlight lies across long fields, with distant trees forming a dark margin beneath the sky. A green signal appears ahead, steady and clear, then passes the window. Soon a small station comes into view beneath two lamps. Its name appears in pale letters but slips away too quickly to remain in memory. Beyond the station, the rails continue through open country. Soft conversation rises and falls without urgency. Somewhere behind the service door, a cupboard closes carefully. Dishes are cleared and cups arranged as the staff leans slightly into a bend, becoming still again when the line straightens. When your cup is empty, you rise and walk back along the aisle. The tables remain within quiet pools of light. White cloth, polished glass, shaded lamps, and dark windows pass beside you. At the end of the car, you take the handrail as the train sways gently, then pass through the connecting door. The dining car lamp remains behind, first as a warm rectangle through the glass, and then as a reflection fading along the polished rail. The low rhythm of the wheels fills the corridor once more, the same steady phrase that carried you from the city, through the suburbs, and into open countryside. Your compartment is waiting with its shaded lamp, folded linen, and drawn curtains. You enter, close the door, and draw back the curtain. Moonlight has found a broad river. It lies beside the railway like a long ribbon of quiet silver, widening between dark banks. Here and there, a village lamp is reflected upon the water. The reflections lengthen, tremble, and gather themselves again. The train bends gently toward the river. The wheels continue their low refrain as the line begins to follow the shining curve through the night. Chapter 5. Along the Moonlit River. The river remains beside the railway, broad and unhurried beneath the moon. From your compartment window, its shape changes as the train follows the valley. At one moment, the water seems close enough to touch, flowing just beyond a low wall of stone. Then the rails curve inland, and a meadow opens between the train and the river. The silver surface narrows to a distant ribbon, partly hidden by trees. A few moments later, it widens again, filling the lower valley with a pale and quiet glow. Clouds move slowly above the hills. Whenever they pass across the moon, the water darkens and almost disappears. Then a clearing opens in the cloud and moonlight returns in long, uneven bands. It settles on the current, on the roofs of villages, and on the smooth shoulders of the surrounding slopes. The moon is not always visible. Sometimes the valley wall hides it. Sometimes a tunnel, a station lamp, or the reflection of your own compartment replaces it. Yet it returns often enough to remain a gentle companion, appearing first upon the river and then upon the rails. The countryside here might recall the Upper Rhine, where river, railway, vineyard, and village share a long natural corridor. The train seems to belong within this landscape. Its route follows the water, bending where the valley bends, and remaining on the gentler ground between riverbank and hillside. Early railway engineers often chose river valleys for a simple reason. Trains travel most efficiently when their routes rise and fall gradually. The steepness of a railway's climb or descent is called its gradient. A gentle gradient allows a locomotive to pull a heavy train with less effort, while a steeper one requires more power and more careful planning. River valleys provided ready-made passages through hills and uplands. Water had already shaped a lower course through the landscape over immense spans of time. By following that course, railway builders could avoid some of the major climbs that a more direct route over higher ground might require. The river, in a sense, had found the way first. For another mile, perhaps two, the train follows that ancient path. The wheels repeat their low refrain. The dark water keeps pace beside them. In the distance, a few village lamps appear, vanish behind a grove of trees, and return as trembling points upon the river. Even a valley route, however, was never entirely simple to build. Slopes pressed close to the bank, small tributaries entered from side valleys, rocky spurs extended toward the water. Engineers constructed retaining walls to hold the earth securely in place, and made cuttings where the rails needed to pass through rock. They carried the line over streams and roads. Sometimes they bored tunnels around difficult bends where there was too little room between the hillside and the river. Outside, a dark wall rises briefly beside the train. Its stones are visible in the passing light, fitted together in level courses. Small plants grow from a few of the joints. Above the wall, the hillside climbs toward terraces of vines. The vineyard rows are only suggested in the darkness. They appear as fine lines drawn across the slope, orderly and delicate, following the contours of the land. Vineyards are characteristic of several regions along the Rhine, especially on sunny slopes overlooking the river. Tonight the vines have no color, they are patterns rather than plants. Narrow rows, low walls, and faint paths rise between the terraces. A small building stands among them. Its pale side catches the moonlight for a moment. Then the angle changes, and the hillside becomes dark again. Farther along, a village gathers close to the bank. A church tower appears briefly between two trees, slender against the sky. Its clock face is too distant to read, though one side of the tower glows softly beneath a lamp. Only a handful of lights remain in the village. Their reflections lengthen across the river, disturbed by the moving water. One becomes a wavering golden thread. Another breaks into small, bright pieces beneath the arch of a bridge. Your compartment has begun to appear in the window. The shaded lamp, the folded linen, and the edge of the curtain hover over the landscape as faint reflections. When the train draws close to the water, the lamp seems to float above the river. For a little while, the warm interior and the moonlit valley occupy the same pane. Two quiet scenes are joined by glass. A bridge approaches gradually. First there is the dark line of its deck. Then comes the steady pattern of its supports. As the train passes beside its structure, the girders cross the view one after another, slow and even, dividing the river into narrow glimpses. Railway bridges have been built in many forms. Some use masonry arches of brick or stone. Others rely on iron or steel trusses, whose connected beams form strong triangular patterns. Plate girder bridges use deep metal beams to carry the track, while many modern structures are made from concrete. The choice depends upon the distance to be crossed, the ground beneath, the available materials, and the period in which the bridge was designed. Here the structure seems solid and familiar. Its lamps cast round reflections onto the water. Beyond it, the river opens once more, calm between its banks. The compartment reflection returns. The little lamp floats over the dark current again, while a signal light glimmers near the line. For an instant, the signal, the bridge lamps, the village windows, and the lamp beside your berth seem to rest on the same dark surface. Then the train turns, and they separate. The carriage corridor has grown quieter. A door closes softly somewhere farther along the sleeping car. Footsteps pass once, measured and light, then fade. Other travelers are returning to their compartments. Curtains are drawn, coats are hung on hooks, books are set aside. One by one, the small private rooms settle into stillness. The wheels continue their low refrain beneath everything. At the next bend, the hillside reaches almost to the river. There is scarcely enough level ground for the railway, and the line enters a short tunnel. Its entrance appears ahead as a rounded opening framed in stone. The entrance or exit of a tunnel is called a portal. Older railway portals were sometimes given an architectural dignity beyond their practical purpose. Builders shaped them from carefully placed stone or brick, adding arches, ledges, or modest ornament. The portal marked the place where the open landscape gave way to an engineered passage through the hill. This one arrives without drama. The stone arch fills the window, gently framing a pocket of darkness. The sound of the wheels becomes deeper and more enclosed. The compartment lamp grows clearer in the glass, no longer competing with river light or moonlight. For a short interval, the window reflects only the warm interior, the curtain, the waiting berth, and your own quiet outline. The carriage remains warm and sheltered. The rhythm continues, rounded now by stone, before opening out again as the second portal passes. The river returns. It is narrower here. The hills stand closer, and wooded slopes descend toward the tracks. Moonlight touches only part of the water now, making a pale curve between long shadows. The train follows that curve faithfully, sheltered by the valley, and guided by the gradual rise of the land. A tributary slips beneath the railway, through a small stone arch. Another retaining wall follows. Then a shallow cutting opens between dark slopes. Each structure appears for only a moment, yet each is part of the same careful work that carries the train onward. There is no need to notice every wall, bridge, or portal. They pass securely beneath and around the sleeping car. Their patterns join the rhythm of the journey. Stone, water, rail, and hillside move through the night in a calm succession. The line begins to climb so gradually that the change is felt more in the surrounding landscape than in the carriage itself. The broad reflections become fewer, the hills gather nearer to the window, and their ridges obscure the moon for longer stretches. Behind the glass, your lamp blows steadily. Beyond it, the river turns away into darkness while the rails continue toward higher ground. The last wide band of silver narrows, trembles upon the water and slips behind a ridge. In its place come close slopes, deeper valleys, and the quiet beginning of mountain night. Chapter 6: Through the Mountains. The change in the railway is so gradual that you do not feel a distinct beginning to the climb. The carriage remains steady beneath you. The shaded lamp holds its warm circle of light, and the glass above the wash basin trembles only slightly with the movement of the train. Yet beyond the window, the land has drawn nearer. Slopes rise where the broad river valley had been, and dark trees stand in close ranks above the line. The river has turned away into the night. In its place are narrow valleys, wooded ridges, and occasional walls of pale stone. Now and then, a lighter surface appears beside the track. It may be exposed rock catching what little moonlight reaches the valley, or a patch of old snow resting in a hollow high above. Each glimpse lasts only a moment. The hillside opens, the pale shape appears, and then another cutting or tunnel gathers the view into darkness. A train does not climb a mountain in the direct manner of a footpath. Steel wheels moving over steel rails make railway travel remarkably efficient, but the adhesion between wheel and rail is limited. Adhesion is the grip that allows the locomotive to pull the train forward. Because that grip must be used carefully, trains are sensitive to steep gradients. A gradient is simply the slope of the track. Even when a locomotive is powerful, a long and heavy train must gain height patiently. Mountain railways therefore work with the landscape. Their tracks follow valleys and curve around shoulders of rock. They cross ravines on bridges and viaducts, then enter tunnels where the terrain leaves no easy route around. A railway may lengthen its approach with broad, sweeping curves, gaining height little by little rather than attempting a short and steep ascent. From inside the sleeping car, this patient engineering is almost imperceptible. There is only a steady pull beneath the familiar rhythm of the wheels. The train enters another tunnel. The outside view closes at once, and the sound becomes deeper and more enclosed. Each rolling note returns softly from the tunnel walls. The reading lamp seems warmer now, its amber shade reflected in the darkened window. The compartment remains comfortably heated. The curtains hang quietly, and the folded blanket rests at the foot of the berth. Within this long darkness, the locomotive continues to draw the train upward with calm, controlled force. The force used to move a train is called traction. Electric locomotives are especially well suited to demanding mountain gradients because they can provide strong, controllable traction. They also produce no smoke of their own, which is a valuable advantage in long tunnels. Historically, some heavy trains received help on particular steep sections from an additional engine. This was called a banking locomotive, or a helper locomotive. Such locomotives belonged to the needs of specific routes. They were not used on every mountain railway. Where they were needed, their work became part of the local pattern of railway operation, shaped by the gradients, curves, and length of the trains passing over that line. The tunnel ends with a gentle widening of sound. Rock walls slip back from the windows, and the moon reappears above a narrow valley. Far below, a handful of lights marks a village road. A church tower stands among clustered roofs, its dark shape just visible against a paler slope. For a few moments, the railway crosses open ground. Looking back along the curve, you can see several windows of your own train. They form a short chain of muted gold, bending around the mountainside before disappearing behind the trees. Below the line lies the shadow of a viaduct. Its arches are too deep to count in the darkness. A viaduct carries the railway across a valley or hollow while allowing the track to keep a gradual course. From the carriage, its presence may be known only through a brief opening of the landscape and the faint sense of space beneath the rails. One of Europe's important early mountain railways demonstrates this patient approach particularly well. The Semmering Railway in Austria was built from 1848 to 1854. Its historic route uses tunnels, bridges, viaducts, and sweeping curves to cross difficult terrain. Rather than hiding the climb entirely, the line follows valleys and mountainsides. Its course shows how 19th century railway engineers found a passage through high country by combining many separate structures into one continuous route. Older mountain lines often climb visibly in this way, turning through valleys and passes. Some modern routes take a different approach. They may travel through long base tunnels built along a relatively low and level course beneath the mountains. Where an older line may curve upward through open scenery, a newer route may pass more directly below the high ridges. Every mountain tunnel, whether old or modern, requires steady systems of care. Water must be drained away, ventilation must be considered, track and structures must be inspected, communication and emergency provisions must be maintained. Most of this work remains unseen by passengers. It belongs to the quiet, dependable order of the railway, carried out so that a warm sleeping car can continue through the mountain night. The line emerges again beside a high slope. For an instant, moonlight lies across a bank of snow well above the rails. Then a protective structure passes around the train, its openings offering brief, repeated glimpses of the valley. Mountain routes use several forms of protection according to local conditions. Avalanche galleries and snow sheds may shield the track where snow is likely to descend. Elsewhere, rockfall shelters, retaining walls, drainage works, or protective barriers serve other purposes. Not every mountain shelter is a snow shed. Each structure is designed for the particular slope, weather, water, snow, or stone found at that place. One opening reveals a distant valley light, another shows a dark stand of trees. Then the covered section ends, and moonlight rests on the window once more. Inside, everything remains familiar. The berth stays steady. A glass of water stands securely in its holder. Your book lies open beside the pillow, though the same page has been waiting for some time. You read one more paragraph, slowly, and then close the cover. There is a quiet pleasure in preparing the compartment for the deepest hours of the journey. A folded shirt is placed in the narrow cupboard. Shoes are set together beneath the seat. A coat hangs behind the door, its pockets emptied of the few small things needed during the evening. Your ticket and travel papers remain within easy reach, though there is no need to look at them now. Everything has found its proper place. You set the book aside and turn the reading lamp lower. Beyond the glass, the train moves into another tunnel. The outside world gives way to the reflection of the compartment. Cream-colored walls appear in the window. The small ladder is fixed neatly in place. The curtain forms a dark, soft line, and your own reflection settles beneath the blanket. The wheels continue their measured conversation with the rails. Through curves and cuttings, beneath stone and forest, the pattern changes without losing its calm. In the corridor, the attendant passes once more. Soft footsteps pause near each door. Nothing is disturbed. The attendant checks quietly that all is in order, that the corridor is clear, the lamps are dimmed, and the carriage is settled for the night. Then the footsteps continue toward the next compartment. Soon they are absorbed by the deeper sound of the tunnel. You draw the blanket higher. The warmth within the compartment feels especially complete, while the mountain lies unseen beyond it. Rock, forest, and perhaps snow rest above the tunnel, while the carriage carries its small sheltered room steadily onward. The lamp glows softly, the linen is smooth, the rail sound surrounds everything like a low and even tide. Time becomes difficult to measure. A tunnel may last a minute or several. There is no need to count. Darkness gathers around the window and then releases it again. Between tunnels, a distant light sometimes appears across the valley, alone on a high road. Another glow marks a house beneath the trees. Once, the outline of a far viaduct can be seen against a moonlit slope. Then the train rounds a curve, and the arches slip gently from view. The climb begins to ease. The change is almost too subtle to notice. The wheels keep their familiar rhythm, but the steady upward pull has softened. Another tunnel arrives. Its darkness feels less like an interruption than a restful pause. Outside, the mountains close around the line. Inside, the sleeping car remains warm, shaded, and secure. Your eyes close for a moment. The train continues. When the long tunnel finally ends, the sound opens outward again. Cool moonlight returns to the glass. The rails begin a gentle descent toward a broad basin, where scattered lights rest across the darkness below. Some follow quiet roads, others gather in small clusters around unseen squares and sleeping streets. Far ahead, beneath the mountain's shadow, a station roof waits. Evenly spaced platform lamps shine beneath it, pale and still in the midnight quiet. Chapter 7. A Midnight Station. The station roof grows slowly out of the darkness, its long outline resting beneath the mountain's shadow. At first, only the platform lamps can be seen. They form a measured row of pale circles, each one separate, each reflected faintly upon rails polished by many passing wheels. The train is descending now, though the slope is gentle. Its pace eases so gradually that you notice the change more in the spaces between sounds than in the sounds themselves. The rhythm beneath the compartment lengthens. The warm carriage sways around a broad curve, then straightens as it approaches the first signals outside the station. A green light passes the window, followed by points and branching rails. Points are movable sections of track that guide a train from one line to another. Here, near a large junction, they lie in overlapping patterns, connecting platforms, sidings, locomotive roads, and the main line across the basin. Beyond them, the station opens beneath a high roof of iron and glass. The train enters at walking pace. Empty benches sit beneath evenly spaced lamps. Their wooden slats shine softly, as though recently polished. A clock hangs above the platform, its dark hands approaching midnight. Beneath it stands a service cart loaded with folded cloths, sealed containers, and a few small cases. Another cart waits beside a column, its handle turned neatly inward so that it does not obstruct the platform. The brakes release a quiet breath. The movement slows further, and the platform columns pass one by one beyond the glass. Then the train comes to rest. There is no abruptness to the stop. It feels like the end of a long exhalation. The carriage settles upon its suspension, and the rails beneath it become still. For a moment, the station seems to be listening. Farther along the platform, a door opens. A few passengers step down from another carriage. They adjust their coats and gather beneath a lamp while a station worker checks a ticket. Nearby, two travelers wait beside modest suitcases. When the sleeping car attendant opens the correct door, they exchange a quiet greeting and climb aboard. The door closes again, keeping the warm interior apart from the cool midnight air. From your compartment, the station resembles a carefully arranged picture. There are tiled signs, painted numbers, glass office windows, and a broad stairway leading toward the booking hall. No crowd fills the space at this hour. The grand architecture remains, but its daytime bustle has ebbed away. A station worker walks slowly alongside the train. He carries a small lamp and pauses near each carriage, looking at doors, wheels, hoses, and connections with habitual care. Railway inspections are often made through familiar, repeated routines. A trained worker knows what should be secure, what should be aligned, and what an ordinary wheel or brake fitting ought to look like. The inspection is calm, because it is practiced. Near the front of the train, another small group has gathered. Some wear railway uniforms. One person holds a document case while another carries a compact overnight bag. They speak briefly, then separate. Those who have brought the train this far turn toward the station building. Those who will take it onward walk toward the locomotive and the staff compartments. This is a crew change. On a long international journey, no single crew remains responsible for every mile. Working hour limits require proper rest, and each railway route has its own details, including signals, gradients, speed restrictions, station layouts, and operating procedures. Drivers need the correct qualifications and a close knowledge of the line. Language requirements may also matter when a train passes from one national network to another, and so the handover takes place quietly. Information is exchanged. Papers or electronic records are checked. One crew's part of the journey ends, and another begins. Historically, the locomotive itself might also have been changed at a station like this. European railways developed in different countries and at different times. Their electrical systems were not always the same. One network might supply electricity in a form that differed from the network beyond the border. Signaling equipment, operating rules, and locomotive approvals could also vary. An engine permitted to work in one country was not necessarily equipped or authorized to continue into the next. At a border station or major junction, the arriving locomotive could therefore be uncoupled. A suitable engine from the neighboring railway would move gently into place, connect to the train, test the brakes, and continue the journey. Yet a locomotive change has never been necessary at every border. The practice depends upon the route, the period, and the equipment being used. Modern multi-system locomotives can operate with several electrical systems and can carry safety equipment for more than one national network. Many international trains now cross frontiers without changing engines at all. Tonight, from the shelter of your compartment, it is difficult to tell whether anything has changed at the far end of the train. The platform curves away, and the locomotive rests beyond a row of columns. There is only a distant glow, a brief movement of railway staff, and then stillness once more. Closer at hand, the soft release and reapplication of the brakes can be felt through the floor. It is less a sound than a gentle alteration in the carriage, a small settling through metal, air, and springs. On other journeys, there might be more work to do during such a pause. Carriages could be added or removed. Shunting, which means moving locomotives or carriages over short distances, allows railway workers to arrange a train for the route ahead. Through carriages once made this process especially useful. A passenger could enter a sleeping compartment in one city and remain there while the carriage itself was transferred from one train to another during the night. The train around it might change, but the passenger's small room continued onward. The use of through carriages varied greatly according to route and period. Where they operated, however, they linked distant destinations without asking travelers to leave their compartments or carry their luggage across a midnight platform. The carriage became a quiet thread, passing from one service to another while its occupants slept. There were border arrangements to consider as well. In earlier eras, officials might inspect passports at the station, or walk quietly through the train while passengers remained in their compartments. Such a check might bring a low knock, a brief exchange, and then the soft closing of the door. On many present-day journeys between countries in the Schengen area, routine checks at internal borders do not normally occur, though temporary controls can be introduced. Procedures differ according to place and time, just as locomotives, uniforms, and railway rules have changed. In a station of an earlier century, mail carts might have waited beside the train, carrying canvas sacks filled with letters. Some trains included traveling post office cars, where postal workers sorted the mail while the landscape moved beyond the windows. At a station, outgoing sacks could be unloaded and new ones taken aboard for towns farther along the line. A modern midnight platform is more likely to hold carts for cleaning, catering, baggage, or other services. The work remains orderly. Supplies arrive where they are needed. Used linen may be taken away. Fresh provisions may be brought aboard. Each small task helps sustain the larger journey. The distant clock marks the hour. Its tone spreads gently beneath the roof, rounded by glass, iron, and open space. There is no urgency in it. Midnight is simply a point upon the clock face, another measured station in the long passage from evening toward morning. The final note fades, leaving the platform quiet again. In the corridor, the shaded lamps remain low. A passenger returns from the washroom and closes a compartment door with care. Farther along, the attendant consults a list, lowers his hand, and waits. Outside, the last departing railway workers walk toward the stairway. The new crew is aboard. A few quiet greetings are exchanged beside an open door. Then those passengers who are leaving disappear toward the booking hall, while those who have just arrived settle into the warm carriages. A platform signal changes. One final door closes. The station worker looks along the length of the train and raises a hand. The brakes ease. At first, the train seems perfectly still. Then the nearest column begins to move. A bench drifts past the window, followed by the waiting service carts and the station clock. The rails murmur beneath the wheels, softly at first, then with returning regularity. The platform lamps slide backward one by one. Beyond the roof, the basin waits in darkness, and the mountains rest unseen around it. The compartment door remains closed. The curtain settles beside the glass. Almost before sleep can fully notice the change, the train is moving once more. carrying its quiet rooms into the deeper hours beyond the station. Chapter 8: The Sleeping Car at Rest. The station has fallen behind so gently that its departure seems less like an event than a change in the quality of the darkness. For a little while, scattered lamps remain visible beyond the curtain. They belong to sidings, workshops, and quiet streets near the railway. Then they grow fewer, and the sleeping car settles once more into the steady purpose of its journey. Along the corridor, the compartment doors form a quiet line. Each is closed now, its handle catching a little of the shaded light. Above the carpet, dim lamps lead toward the far end of the carriage in a soft, golden sequence. Their reflections rest faintly in the windows, where they appear to float over the dark countryside outside. Behind one door, a coat hangs from a hook, nearly still. Its hem moves only when the carriage leans into a curve. A folded scarf lies on the seat beneath it. Shoes have been placed side by side near the wall, and a small case fits neatly below the berth. Everything has found its place within the compact room. You lie beneath the blanket and notice the many small forms of support around you. There's the cool linen beneath one hand, the pillow yielding beneath your head, the raised edge beside the mattress, and the curtain resting close to the glass. The compartment is not perfectly motionless, nor is it meant to be. Instead, it moves with restraint. It accepts the route beneath it. As the train enters a wide curve, the mattress responds with a gentle, gradual pressure. The curtain shifts by a finger's width. The hanging coat inclines, pauses, and returns. There is no need to see the curve outside. The carriage quietly describes it for you. Much of this calm movement begins beneath the floor, among parts that passengers rarely see. Most conventional passenger carriages ride on two bogies, one near each end. A bogie is a strong, swiveling frame beneath the carriage. It carries the wheels and part of the suspension. Because each bogie can turn slightly, a long coach can follow a bend in the rails without holding itself rigidly against the route. It is a patient arrangement. The carriage does not resist every curve. It bends with the railway, following each change of direction and carrying the room above it along a gentler path. Within each bogie are wheel sets. A wheel set consists of two railway wheels fixed to a common axle, so that both wheels rotate together. The wheel sets support the carriage and guide it along the rails. The bogies distribute the weight, while allowing the long body above them to remain composed as the track curves through the night. Between the wheels and the quiet room, there are layers of softness. Passenger suspension commonly works in two stages. The first lies between the wheel sets and the bogie frame. The second lies between the bogie and the body of the carriage. Rather than passing every unevenness of the track directly upward, dampers help to control that movement. Together they reduce shocks, repeated bouncing, rolling, and sideways sway. They cannot remove motion completely. The rails still make themselves known, yet the harder edges of the journey are softened before they reach the berth. What remains is the broad, slow language of travel, a measured rocking, a light tremor, the quiet assurance of being carried onward. For several minutes, the track becomes especially smooth. The familiar murmur diminishes until the wheels seem almost to pass through silence. In that brief hush, other sounds become clear. Air moves softly through a vent. Fabric brushes against the wall. Somewhere farther along the carriage, a fitting gives a small, ordinary click, and then is still again. The train passes over a set of points, where one rail route meets another. A subtle sequence moves beneath you. It is not sharp, but it is distinct enough to mark the place. The wheels repeat it from one bogie to the next, and the following carriage answers with a softened echo. The vehicles of the train are joined by couplings. A coupling is the equipment that connects one railway vehicle to another. It transmits the pulling force as the locomotive draws the train forward. It also transmits compressive forces when the vehicles press gently toward one another as speed changes, or as the route rises and falls. Other connections may pass between the carriages as well. Brake lines, electrical cables, heating supplies, and communication systems allow many separate vehicles to work together as one complete train. Traditional European locomotive-hauled coaches may use buffers and screw couplings. The buffers are paired fittings that meet between the vehicles and help to manage pressure between them. The central screw coupling holds the coaches together. Fixed train sets commonly use automatic or semi-permanent couplings instead. Some remain connected for long periods, joining carriages designed to operate together as a single unit. None of this machinery asks for attention now. It performs its work beneath the floor and between the carriages, out in the cool night air. Inside, the corridor lamps remain warm, the doors stay closed, the whole train travels onward as a chain of sheltered rooms, linked carefully together. The rails begin to cross a bridge. The sound changes first, becoming slightly more open beneath the wheels. For a short while, the rhythm has a hollow spaciousness, as though the darkness below has given the train more room for its voice. Perhaps a narrow river passes underneath, carrying mountain water onward and reflecting a small piece of the moon. No light enters strongly enough to disturb the compartment. Only a pale edge appears beside the curtain, lingers for a moment, and fades. The wheels return to quieter ground. You become aware again of the blanket comfortably weighted across you, and of the pillow that has adjusted almost without notice. The berth sways by very small degrees. Each movement arrives, passes through, and gives way to another. There is nothing to anticipate, and nothing that needs to be done. Wakefulness begins to loosen at its edges. Thoughts no longer follow a straight line. A station lamp from earlier in the night returns briefly to mind, shining on a quiet platform. Then comes the image of a river beneath moonlight, followed by the golden corridor and the measured face of a clock. These impressions overlap without requiring explanation. Beyond the door, the sleeping car remains at rest within its motion. The closed compartments hold their separate pools of darkness. Coats hang from hooks. Curtains stir faintly beside the glass. Beneath every room, springs receive the railway's small irregularities, and dampers settle each movement before it can grow. The low refrain of the wheels is sometimes clearly heard, and sometimes absorbed by the mattress, and the deeper quiet of the hour. On a curve, the bogies turn beneath the long carriage. On straight rail, they align once more. The couplings carry the steady forces from vehicle to vehicle, joining the separate carriages into one patient procession. Another wide curve passes beneath the train. The mattress yields gently, then returns. The curtain brushes the window frame. The coat on its hook moves once and grows still. Outside, the mountain silhouettes have lowered behind the train. Their steep outlines no longer fill the horizon. The land opens almost without announcement, first into gentler slopes, and then into distances too broad to measure through the narrow space beside the curtain. Above those distances, stars spread across a wider sky. Beneath them, the rails continue eastward through the spacious night. The wheel sets turn together, the bogies follow the long, quiet curves, and the sleeping car moves onward, warm and sheltered, toward the open plain. Chapter 9. Across the Great Plain. Beyond the sleeping car, the land has become broad and nearly level. The last foothills have settled behind the train, leaving a long horizon beneath the stars. Fields stretch into the darkness, their boundaries suggested by narrow rows of trees, pale country roads, and the occasional silver line of a drainage channel. Across the Hungarian plain, distance has a quiet presence. It is not hidden by steep valleys or close hills. It lies openly beneath the night sky, calm and spacious, allowing the moon to shine upon fields far beyond the railway. From the berth you can see only a portion of this great expanse. The curtain has been drawn back a little, making a dark frame around the window. Within it, the countryside passes in long, simple forms: fields, trees, a tower, the moon. Nearby grasses move quickly past the glass, too close to be seen clearly. Signal posts appear for a moment, then slip behind, yet distant farm buildings seem almost still. A church tower may remain against the sky for several minutes, moving so gradually that the train appears to be making little progress. This is one of the gentle illusions of travel across open country. The train may be moving swiftly, but distant objects change position only slowly. Without nearby walls, platforms, or buildings to provide comparison, speed becomes difficult to judge. The carriage continues at its steady pace, while the horizon seems to drift rather than pass. A narrow row of poplars stands across the fields. Tall and dark, the trees rise close together, perhaps marking the edge of a road or a boundary between fields. Their pointed crowns remain separate against the stars. Then they gather into one shadow, slide beside the train, and recede. Beyond them lies another field, and beyond that another. In daylight, the surfaces of the plain would show many colors and textures. At this hour, those differences have softened. The land is composed of broad shades of black and gray, with an occasional gleam where water lies beneath the moon. Drainage channels cross the low ground in long, narrow lines. For a few seconds, one such channel runs beside the railway. It holds a slender reflection of the moon, no wider than a ribbon. Then the water bends away, and the reflection closes. The wheels continue their low refrain. Railways have long connected inland towns with larger cities, river ports, industrial regions, and agricultural markets. Their importance was found not only in the distance they covered, but also in the many ordinary lives and places they joined. Farm produce could travel from country districts toward busy markets. Manufactured goods could move outward from industrial regions. Letters and newspapers crossed long distances through postal networks linked to reliable railway schedules. Passengers, parcels, and carefully packed belongings moved along the same routes. People traveled for many reasons. Workers went to places of employment. Students returned to schools and universities. Traders visited markets. Families crossed the countryside for reunions and familiar visits. Visitors arrived in towns they knew well, or in towns they were seeing for the first time. Some journeys were holidays, but many were simply part of life. The railway served local communities as well as distant travelers. It linked one familiar place with another and gave wide landscapes a dependable pattern of departures and arrivals. Reliable schedules gently changed the meaning of distance. Letters, newspapers, goods, and travelers could be expected within a known span of time. A person leaving one station could have a reasonable sense of when the train would reach the next. Across the open plain, the rails offered a measured path and a shared sense of time. Tonight, those networks are almost invisible. Their history rests quietly in the track beneath the carriage and in the small stations scattered along the route. One of those stations approaches now. At first, there is only a signal shining at the edge of the fields. Then comes a low building with dark windows. A platform lamp illuminates a pale station sign and a short stretch of paving. Beneath the lamp stands a simple shelter with a bench inside. The main line train does not stop. Long-distance services may pass small stations while other trains call there at different hours. From the window, the whole place is gathered into a few quiet seconds. A platform, a sign, a shelter, a lamp, a small piece of signal equipment beside the track. Then the station is behind. The lamp diminishes to a warm point. It seems to float above the rails for a little while before distance takes it away. The fields return. A road approaches from the right, meeting the railway at a level crossing. The exact arrangements at such crossings differ from one country and railway line to another. Some use full barriers, while others use half barriers. There may also be lights, bells, signs, or painted road markings. Here a small roadside shelter stands near the crossing. A lamp reveals the pale edge of a barrier and the roof of a quiet keeper's building. The scene appears and disappears without calling attention to itself. The road continues into darkness on either side, and the rails continue eastward. In the berth, you no longer need to follow every detail. The passing landscape can be received in fragments. A farmhouse window, a cluster of trees, the smooth reflection of a drainage channel, a church tower held briefly against the sky, then lost. The tower belongs to a village set farther from the line. Its houses are mostly hidden, their low roofs blending with the fields. Only the church rises clearly enough to meet the horizon. For a time, it remains beside the lowering moon. Then the angle of the train changes. Poplars cross the view, and the tower is gone. Fields, trees, a tower, the moon. The rhythm beneath the carriage remains steady. At intervals there is a soft variation in the sound, but each small change is absorbed into the longer pattern. The wheel sets turn. The berth moves gently. The curtain breathes beside the cool glass. Far away, another village rests beneath the stars. Its roads extend quietly toward farms and neighboring towns. Its station waits beside the line, connected to places beyond the horizon. During the day, workers, students, families, traders, and visitors may pass through. Letters and newspapers may travel onward. Produce and manufactured goods may continue toward distant markets and cities. For now, the village is still. The train passes without stopping. A station sign catches the light and vanishes. A platform shelter slips behind. A signal shines for a few moments, then becomes another small point in the distance. The plain opens once more. The moon has lowered until it seems to rest upon the almost level horizon. Its light touches the upper branches of distant trees and leaves the fields beneath them dark. One by one, the stars closest to that pale edge become more difficult to see. Nothing in the compartment requires attention. The shaded corridor lamps remain beyond the closed door. A coat hangs from its hook. Folded belongings rest in their appointed places. Around you, the sleeping car continues as one warm room, divided into many smaller rooms, each carried smoothly through the open night. Outside, the plain extends beyond sight. Inside, the rails speak in their familiar measure. Fields, trees, moon, rails. The words themselves seem to lengthen. They become less like names and more like shapes passing gently through the mind. The countryside no longer needs to be watched closely. It continues whether the curtain is open or closed, whether a tower is noticed or allowed to pass unseen. Another row of poplars moves across the window. Behind it, the fields return. Beyond the fields, a faint village light rests near the horizon. The traveler rests in the berth, sheltered by the small compartment and the long carriage around it. The train carries letters, belongings, and sleeping passengers through the night, following the rails from one community toward the next. There is no need to count the stations. There is no need to measure the distance. The wheels keep their quiet rhythm, and the open country moves past in broad, unhurried forms. Fields, trees, a distant tower, the last low light of the moon. At last, the moon lowers behind a far row of trees. Its final sliver shines between two narrow trunks, then fades from view. At the edge of the window, the black sky begins to soften into the faintest blue, and the glass carries a touch of cool morning. Chapter 10. The Blue Hour. The first blue of morning gathers so gradually that it is difficult to say when night begins to change. There is no sudden line between darkness and day. The moon has lowered behind the trees, and the black sky has begun to soften. Little by little, the window becomes a window again. For hours, the glass has seemed like a dark mirror, holding the shaded lamp, pale linen, and quiet outline of the compartment. Now those reflections fade. Beyond them the land returns. A row of trees, low farm buildings, and a narrow road following the track before turning away. The world is drawn in charcoal and deep blue, yet its distances are becoming clear. Condensation has formed along the lower edge of the glass. Warm air inside the carriage has met the cold window, turning some of its water vapor into tiny droplets. As the train leans into a gentle curve, one droplet travels downward, leaving a clear path behind it. Through that path, you can see the plain stretching toward a pale horizon. The rails continue their measured phrase beneath the carriage. At this hour, the rhythm seems softer, though the train has not necessarily slowed. Perhaps it is the surrounding world that has grown more spacious and still. Fields pass without sharp boundaries. Ditches hold strips of mist. Here and there a tree stands alone, its branches delicate against the sky. Farther away, the pointed top of a church tower rises above a village whose windows remain dark. Beyond the compartment door, a latch turns gently. A cupboard closes with care. The sleeping car attendant has begun the morning routine. On night trains, morning has long been managed with discretion. Passengers may ask to be awakened at different times, according to where they will leave the train. The attendant keeps these arrangements in order, moving quietly from door to door. A soft knock replaces a loud announcement. Tea or coffee may be carried on a tray. Towels are collected, bedding folded, and compartments gradually return to their daytime form. The work is practical, but it is also a kind of hospitality. A sleeping car carries many private schedules within one shared journey. One passenger may step down at a small station before sunrise. Another may remain aboard until the terminus. Someone may already be dressed and reading, while someone else still rests behind a drawn curtain. The attendant allows each compartment to meet the morning at its own pace. Presently there is a quiet knock at your door. A tray arrives with tea, hot water, and a simple breakfast. Bread with butter, perhaps a little preserve, and a neatly folded napkin. The cup rests securely in a shallow holder as the carriage sways. Nothing is elaborate. Everything fits within the compact order of the train. Steam rises from the tea and briefly clouds the cooler air near the window. Its surface tilts almost imperceptibly with the movement of the carriage. Outside, the silhouettes acquire detail. A dark wall becomes a line of poplars beside a canal. A low shadow separates into barns and a farmhouse. Fields reveal parallel furrows, silvered by moisture. Fences emerge post by post. On a distant lane, a bicycle lamp moves between two houses, appearing and disappearing behind the hedges. This dim interval before sunrise is often called the blue hour. The name does not mean an exact 60 minutes. Depending on season, weather, and latitude, it may be shorter or longer. It occurs while the sun is still below the horizon, although its light has begun to scatter through the upper atmosphere. Blue wavelengths spread widely through the sky, giving the landscape its cool, gentle color. From a train window, the blue hour unfolds in layers. The nearest embankment remains dark, fields beyond it turn slate gray, distant roofs become soft blue, while the eastern sky lightens toward pearl. Because the train is moving, each layer crosses the view at a different apparent speed. Grasses beside the rails sweep past quickly, villages move more slowly, and the far horizon seems almost still. The attendant continues along the corridor. Behind one door, bedding is being folded away. In many sleeping cars, berths are designed to become seats during the day. A lower bed may fold into the wall or be rearranged into a cushioned bench. Upper berths can be raised and secured, opening the space below. Pillows and blankets return to storage. Ladders and safety straps are placed in their daytime positions. The transformation is efficient because space aboard a train is valuable. Carriages must remain within fixed limits of height and width, so they can pass safely through tunnels, beneath bridges, and beside platforms. Designers therefore give many fittings more than one purpose. A shelf may conceal a wash basin. A seat may become a bed. A narrow panel may hold a mirror, lamp, and pocket for tickets or timetables. For now, your compartment remains in its night arrangement. The blanket lies loosely across the berth, and the curtain is partly open. Morning is present, but it has not asked the carriage to hurry. The train passes a small station without stopping. Its name-board is readable for only a moment. Beneath the platform canopy, 2 lamps remain lit. A station clock shows the early hour, and empty benches face the track. Then the station slips behind, and the fields return. A little later, the train crosses a narrow river. During the night, water appeared only as a reflection or a dark absence in the land. Now the river is visible, smooth and gray beneath the bridge. Reeds gather along its banks, and a small boat lies upside down upon the grass. Steel girders frame the view for a few seconds. The sound beneath the carriage deepens as the train crosses the span. Then the familiar wheel rhythm returns. Beyond the river, the countryside begins to show its colors. One field is brown earth, another muted green. A tiled roof carries a trace of red. White walls appear among the trees. Smoke rises from a chimney and leans gently with the breeze. Along the corridor, a blind is raised. Daylight stretches across the carpet, and brass handles catch a faint gleam. A door opens. Quiet footsteps move toward the washroom. Somewhere nearby, water runs briefly into a basin. The sleeping car is waking by degrees, never all at once. You finish the tea while the last stars disappear. The eastern sky is pale now, though the sun remains below the edge of the world. Ahead, signal lights continue to shine, but their colors seem less solitary than at midnight. A green light glows beside the track and reflects for an instant in the damp rails. Beyond the window, another line of trees approaches and passes. Behind them, a village gathers around a church tower. A narrow road curves between the houses. For a moment, the whole quiet settlement rests within the window frame. Then it drifts behind the carriage. The calm of night still lingers in the shaded lamp. The unmade berth, and the slow movement of the curtain. It remains behind closed doors where some passengers are asleep. Mist rests in low hollows. Lamps shine beneath station canopies. Damp rails carry small reflections of green and amber. Soon there will be bridges, outer neighborhoods, and the broad approaches to another great station. The attendant will fold the bedding, raise the berth, and return the compartment to its daytime arrangement. Coats will be lifted from hooks, and bags brought down from shelves. A long night journey will prepare gently for arrival. For the moment there is only this calm threshold, the warm compartment, the cooling cup, the pale linen, and the landscape emerging from blue. The rails continue beneath you, carrying the sleeping car toward morning. Their familiar rhythm has crossed the plain through darkness, beneath the stars and the lowering moon. Now it moves through the blue hour, while fields, rivers, Villages and distant towers return one by one. Nothing needs to be hurried. The morning gathers slowly, and the train carries you onward.